Talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. Jimmy, James, and Tom are back for more. Like Joey B, we're here for season 4 with Bengal guests and stories not heard before. There's Tony, Mark, and Jamie, as well as our charity, Hooter Nation, joining from far and wide. Every Tuesday night, the guys are back at it live. By the fans, for the fans, from day one, it's time to have some fun. We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. The Bengal boys stop by to drop the speed. Don't get your popcorn ready and take a seat. Season 4 will end with the Lombardi.
Live from the Betfred Studios in Greater Cincinnati and Brownsburg, Indiana, it's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends, a Bengal Jim-less version. And without further ado, here is James.
What's up, everybody? I'm going to be positive tonight. We might talk about the mistake on the lake a little bit, but we're not going to dwell on that. We are going to move on and have some fun. Look forward to Sunday, seeing a lot of our Bengals family down in Lot E at southeast corner of Paycor Stadium. Our buddy Lou Sand from Cincinnati Parks is going to be on, talk about the new arrangement that we have that's going to allow us to officially bleed into Smale Park, which is going to be just more room to tailgate, more room to have fun. So we'll talk about that a little. And two special guests, our man James Rapine with his book release. We'll talk about those particulars, where you can get it. He also has a special event Friday. And then Charlie Goldsmith from the Cincinnati Enquire at 8:30. So as always, have your questions queued up in the chat. We'll do our best to get to those for any of our guests. Without further ado, the Tiger is back, and let's talk some charity stuff. Tony, what's going on tonight?
Hey, welcome. I'm glad to be back and be here with you guys. Carrie did a really good job last show, so I appreciate her filling in for me. From a charity standpoint, just to get an update, we're at $49,915, I do believe, and that is 16 charities so far, and we're just in the week 1. So appreciate everyone's support and providing those funds for those charities. So appreciate that. And just to talk about a little bit about our tailgate, the charity that we're going to be representing there is Make-A-Wish. I think everyone knows what Make-A-Wish is all about. It's basically providing wishes for those children and young adults to be able to do things that they might not be able to. So looking forward to supporting that charity at the tailgate. Got a couple good giveaways. We're going to be giving away a Chase helmet signed, as well as a Money Mac signed jersey as the raffle prizes. So make sure you guys are come ready to buy those cards that we do there for that. So looking forward to supporting that group.
And the one thing Fish, if I can pipe in real quick, Tony, again, welcome back from all the hard work you did in Florida the last 2 weeks, helping those hurricane victims. But meeting with Make-A-Wish, we did over the summer about kind of their charity and what happens. A lot of people think that those poor kids that are involved are terminally ill. And while they're sick, most of them, God willing, are going to live. So it's a great organization to kind of help those kids get over the hump. And that was one of the surprising things when we did some research and talking to them, that not all those poor boys and girls are terminally ill. Certainly some are. But with today's technology and medicine like that, most of them get over that hump and make a recovery. And Tony, you can expand on this, but they'll have some representatives down there Sunday that can talk about the good things that they do and a lot of their success stories because of people's generous contributions.
Yeah, and at the tailgate, like you mentioned, been talking with Allie from Make-A-Wish, and they're going to have some volunteers out there to help sell those cards. and hopefully they'll be able to bring some information that they can share with us too. And that's one of the things that we like to do here is not just earn the money for the charity, but also learn about what they do and what they provide to others. So it's a cool thing to have that both those items involved with our charity work. I also like to talk real quick just about our next duck race. We released information about our duck race. It's for this awesome print of Mr. Logan Wilson, who has signed it, and that was donated by CB Art. If you guys have followed him on Twitter or X, he does some really good work, and he was gracious to donate this, and Logan Wilson signed it for us. And it's for the Brooks Joshua Anderson Foundation. And just to kind of give some backstory to it, if you guys remember the softball tournament that we had, Logan Wilson did, the part of the proceeds went to that foundation. So looking forward to supporting this group as well. It's around SIDS. This is an organization who unfortunately had a dramatic event that affected those involved, and they turned around and made a foundation out of it and ended up to do good with it. So I'm glad we're supporting this foundation as well. And that duck race is going to be on 9/26.
9/26, and then Tony, you're everywhere.
Yeah, look at I got Tony's. There's Tony's on Betfred. So as you guys know, I worked with Betfred last year, and they've got a bunch of Tony's up there on their app. So take advantage of some of those promotions by Betfred. If you're a new user, download their app, and that top one talks about, you can get up to $200 a week. If you haven't already got Betfred, go ahead and do that.
We appreciate that, Tony, along with myself, Jimmy, and I don't know, thousands of others fans were up in Cleveland in the miserable Factory of Sadness. Is that what they call that place? And I'm not even going to go into a lot of detail about the game, but the one thing that just blew my mind, not even 5 miles out of downtown, the skies were bright, sunny, and not a cloud in the sky. So I think literally over that stadium, that wet mist, that was a little bit chilly at times, absolutely miserable. You get 5 minutes out of downtown, away from the stadium, gorgeous weather. So that was my takeaway from Factory of Sadness. Anything you want to add to that, Tony?
Yeah, like you said, it was we all saw the game, we all saw what happened, and they didn't play their best, but to have that rain on top of it and that little bit of breeze coming off the lake, it just made it miserable. And we kept on checking the radar, which was funny, and there was nothing showing on the radar. It must have been that lake effect rain, I guess. But it was miserable. We were soaked by the time that game was over.
Well, moving on to more positive things. We will talk about the Tailgate Sunday, but as we've mentioned on a couple shows, tickets are available for a couple away game tailgates. Those include at Nashville Sunday, October 1st against the Titans. You can go to many of the Facebook channels to get those tickets for the Nashville away one, and also the Arizona tailgate the week later out in the desert. Those tickets are available as well. So if you plan on going to either one of those, we'd love for you to join us and have some fun pregame. Those are two the tickets are on sale for. We're getting a lot of questions about Jacksonville, so let us get through these, and then we'll have the tickets for Jacksonville, San Francisco. A lot of questions about that. We're doing the winery event Saturday, and maybe something small Sunday. Nothing as elaborate as we're doing in Nashville or Phoenix. But as always, stay tuned on the social media for that. And I popped this link up a little bit before, but we do have a new podcast page. We had some issues with the other Facebook page streaming. So you can see facebook.com/podcast talking football. You can like that there if you're a Facebook person. That way you're notified of what's happening. So, Tom, you've been quiet thus far. Anything you'd like to add as we start week 2 in the NFL?
Well, we'll filter my language from this very spot where I watched the game Sunday. There are some good takes to take away from the game from Cleveland. One, it's over, and the team is out of there. Seems to be relatively healthy. Like to think Joe Burrow is 1 week healthier, and hopefully got some rust knocked off of him and didn't add any rust because of that godforsaken Lake Erie rain. But it's one game, it's over. Typically during a season, even the best of teams play poorly, and we watched our Bengals play poorly, to put it politely, on Sunday. I've never seen when Joe Burrow's healthy, the offense looked the way it did. So hopefully all the kinks are worked out. The corrections will be being made in practice this week, and we can go get the Ratbirds on Sunday. And I know the world will look a whole lot brighter with a win on Sunday.
No doubt about that. I think speaking of brighter, I think it's going to be a gorgeous day in Cincinnati, much like it was last weekend. So if you'd like to come down and join us pregame right there in the southeast corner of Lot E, we would love to have you there. One thing I didn't touch on, October 17th, if you remember a couple weeks back, we had Cam Miller on. We're going to do the Riverfront Remembered movie release. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to charity. That's going to be at Dell's 16 Lots Bar at Newport on the Levee. A lot of former Bengals that had the opportunity to play at Riverfront will be on hand there. Tickets are just $10. You can also reserve a table. Perhaps you want to bring friends, family, coworkers. You're more than welcome to do so. So again, that'll be Tuesday, October 17th. We'll do the Riverfront Remembered film. That's going to be the video debut of that, along with 6+ former Bengals right now that have committed to be there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And James is getting settled into his seat. And without, we're not going to keep him waiting. How about Tom? You want to go ahead and introduce our first guest?
Well, he's a great friend of the show, a Bengal fan, but doesn't get in the way of him being an objective journalist. He does as fine a job as anybody covering our Bengals, and we are privileged to have him on to talk about his very first book about our Bengals. And here is James Rapine.
What's
James,
up, fellas? How you doing?
Well,
thanks for having me.
You know what? I don't know if Jimmy purposely doesn't come on the weeks you're on, James, but you might want to start taking it personally.
I do take it personal. This is back-to-back times now, and I better see him Friday, or there's going to be heck to pay, just in case we have any kids.
Trouble
watching.
in the hen house.
That's right.
In the hen house. Now I saw, Tony shared on social media. He has this banner that he takes to all his games, and he's right down front. And probably, he's got a lot of Bengals on there, but probably Sunday in Cleveland, he picked up his most famous autograph on that banner. Is that correct, Tony?
Absolutely. It was my favorite one. And I was so up in arms and giggly about the whole situation. So I appreciate James taking a moment out of his busy schedule down there covering the Bengals and signing my flag for me.
Yeah, right. See, the flag value just tanked. But I appreciate you making me feel good and asking me for an autograph. But I think that was the least valuable autograph that's on there for sure.
No, so some people don't know what I'm doing with that flag. So I'm hoping to get as many signatures as I can on the flag. And then we're gonna do a raffle for it, and of course we're going to do a charity. So I'm looking forward to all those people signing that flag. I'm just glad that you're part of it, James.
Thank you. I appreciate you including me. See, I didn't know that part. That's really cool. Hopefully it fetches big dollars.
So anyways, big announcement. I had the opportunity to listen to you replacing Tony yesterday on Mo's show. Great job there, James. But I'm going to pop up this, and this is what we're going to talk about. We briefly touched on it a couple weeks ago when you were on the show. No doubt has to be an exciting time for you. Certainly a labor of love, endless hours and hours put into this. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Friday.
Yeah, Enter the Jungle. It's out now for Bengals fans everywhere. I know plenty of people got theirs today that pre-ordered, and this is the perfect Bengals book for any Bengals fan. I think that's that was the goal. That's how I would describe it. There's season by season summaries. There's pictures, starting lineups, important dates, moments. This is like the 05 spread, not the season summary, but what it meant to the franchise to make the playoffs, obviously, after the 90s and how rough they were. The 05 team is certainly one that was really important to me growing up. And so I try to hit on all those moments. So whether you're 9 years old and you like the gritty, so you're a Bengals fan, or you're 69 years old, Enter the Jungle has something for everybody. And you mentioned Friday. Yeah, Friday at Holy Grail Banks, 7:00. We're going to do our book release party where we can talk Bengals. It's kind of a season start party. Look, let's be honest here. When they start the season in Cleveland and it's not at home, I couldn't release the book on the road. So it's perfect. Before the home opener, Friday night, we'll get together. We can talk Bengals, and I'll have plenty of copies of Enter the Jungle as well, because I know a lot of people want to get them in person. So your chance is Friday at Holy Grail Banks downtown at 7:00.
Did I see that's a hardcover too, James?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
First class.
We're not messing around. Yeah. No, hardcover. And it's got gorgeous, professional, like high-def images. From you want to go, this is the 88 season. Obviously, that's a huge year. There's a separate spread for that. But it's got great images. It's got the all-decade teams, which a lot of work went into those because I didn't want to offend anyone. That's the problem when you do a book like this. You want to make sure you get it right. So all-decade teams. There were some tight races, but I think I was able to nail it down.
Chris has a question. Apparently, she's probably going to be at a comedy show. I think Chris isn't, Cookie Girl is not at a Bengals game. He's usually at a comedy show, and then maybe superseding you Friday. But she's asking if they can't make it Friday, where can they get the book, James?
CincinnatiBengalsBook.com is the easiest place. And last I checked, if you sign up there, if you give them your email, you can get 10% off that first one. So it's a sneaky way to do it if you go to CincinnatiBengalsBook.com right now.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, James, what was, the people you talked to as you formulated the book and the research you did, what was the one thing that struck you were most surprised about the franchise, or you said, I didn't know that? And he takes a lot of criticism. He certainly has over the past 30 plus years as he's been team president. Mike Brown was the one that identified Cincinnati as an ideal landing spot for an NFL franchise. And I don't think the Bengals are here if Mike doesn't direct Paul in Cincinnati's direction. So that part is interesting. There's a bunch of things like that. That was one where it was like, I knew he had a hand in it, of course, but I didn't know he was the one like, we should look at that city south of Cleveland down 71. Obviously they were in Cleveland for quite some time, and I'd say it worked out for sure.
Augie has a question along those lines, and you might touch on this in the book. Was Seattle one of the options?
It was, yeah. There were multiple cities that I think they looked at, and part of the process was the fact that Paul wanted to be back in the NFL. There was no AFL. He didn't want to stay there, and obviously they started there for a year and then or 2 years, and then they were able to get it into the NFL. But that was the key for him, is getting back into the NFL. I know AFL owners at the time really pushed back, and that was something that I highlighted in the book as well. So little things like that you can obviously do the research and find out there, but I did it for you, and it can be sitting on your coffee table, bookshelf, anytime you want to take a gander and learn about the Bengals.
Yeah, there was some uneasiness between Paul Brown and the AFL owners. Paul was not shy about stating, I think his quote was in the documentary was, "I didn't pay $6 million for an AFL franchise."
Yes. And those owners did not like that.
They didn't like that and struck back. I mean, they did a lot of, for a lot of them, very good guys that should be respected. They did a lot of unfair things with the Bengals those first couple of years. The Bengals did not share in television revenue from the NBC contract like the rest of them did, and then they saw to that. Whereas in the beginning they all favored each other. The allocation drafts were not at all stacked. They left Paul Brown, for the most part, crap to choose from. He really had to go young. He had no other choice.
And the thing that I think people don't realize is how quick the Bengals became good and competitive, despite everything that happened with Greg Cook as well. So, like, as you were describing all of that stuff, like Bengals are competitive essentially from the jump. It took a little bit, but not like a lot of expansion teams. I think of the Texans. It's the most notable one, I would say. Nearly 2 decades ago now. I think it was 2002. So, yeah, I think that's that was something. It didn't surprise me. Obviously, I looked at the results and things like that, but just diving in, it is amazing how quick they were competitive, especially because it's not like they just walked into Greg Cook. As promising as he was, that was short-lived, unfortunately.
Before we go to Tony's question, James, give me that website one more time, because I want to put it in the chat for everybody that's watching.
CincinnatiBengalsBook.com.
Bengals.book.com. Okay, Tony, go ahead.
So we know that you cover the Bengals and you've been doing it for some time. What just said, hey, I need to write a book? What came about, and how did you come to the decision to write a book?
Right place, right time. Publisher Lake 7 Creative reached out, and they've done other books like this. They've done a Vikings book. They've done a Buffalo Bills book. And I think part of it was the fact that the Bills author was able to mention me, pass my name along, whatever the case is. And in this business, that's a lot of it. And Ryan from Lake 7 Creative reached out. We talked, and this was way back. I mean, this is during the Super Bowl run. I think it was right before the Super Bowl. So things were hectic. I was like, hey, definitely interested. Let's circle back after the game and when things die down a bit. And so, yeah, it was, it's been in the works for a while, but we wanted to get it right, and we didn't want to rush it. And we might have had to, honestly, if they had won Super Bowl 56, which we would have done. I wouldn't have left this chair, and we would have gotten it done, of course. But yeah, I'm really excited about the way it turned out. So I don't know, Tony, if there was ever a time where I sat down and said, I want to write a book. But when the opportunity came down, I looked at it and I said, all right, yeah, I think that's what this is something I should do. And Joe Marino, by the way, is the one who wrote the Let's Go Bills book. And I know he passed my name along. So I wouldn't be here without that. And I've written the book probably without Joe passing my name along.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Question in the chat, James, is about, let me find it here. Any talk of Nippert Stadium, the 68, 69 stories or features in the book?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's talk of them playing at Nippert, and that's wild. That's something I knew, so I didn't mention it in that surprise, but I think it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. You think about the professional teams in this town. FC Cincinnati starts at Nippert. The Bengals start at Nippert. Obviously, UC still plays there, and it's kind of crazy to think about looking back, that far, that's where the Bengals started, but they did in their AFL days, and that's certainly highlighted in the book.
Tom, one final question before we ask him about Burrow's contract.
Well, in regards to the book, did you also assimilate a all-time Bengals team, or was it just by decade?
It was by decade, and the all-time one would have been, that would have been tough. I would have done it, but with the format that we went by decade, but there were still some dilemmas, and you try to, because like Ken Anderson, for example, he played in multiple decades. There are a lot of guys like that. Dave Lapham did that, and I'm just naming some of the notable Bengals. Obviously, Ken Riley did as well. So a couple of them made multiple, but a lot of them, the majority of their playing time was in one decade. So I went with that.
I know you went pretty in depth with the book, but this is a franchise, as much as we love it, and I used it when we had Elizabeth Blackburn on the other week. I said, no entity in Cincinnati, and this is not disrespecting any other team, franchise. Nothing can bring this city together, electrify and energize it like the Bengals when they are winning. It's very special. At the same time, certainly we had the lost decade of the 90s, but a great number of what ifs. Greg Cook's injury and what would have happened there. They lost what an elite linebacker in Bill Berge that really shook up what was already one of the best 3 or 4 defenses in the league, but may have been the best and may have turned the tide. Kajana Carter's injury, Boomer hurting his shoulder in '88 on the way to the Super Bowl, and how things may have been different there. Is there a what if moment or what if player that you identify in the book?
Oh, multiple. You try to hit on as many of those moments as possible. Obviously, the Carson Palmer injury from '05 is more of a modern one, I would say. But Greg Cook is the one. Like, if you ask me the biggest what if, it's that one, because Paul Brown's like, I got my guy. This is it. I have my quarterback. It didn't take long, and he's ready to go. And 5 games in, less than that, it goes in a different direction. And so
Before, I'm sorry, I turn you back to James because I know you have to go. But
yeah,
my father always insisted, and Bob Trumpy's analogy was his hand would have been full of Super Bowl rings if Greg Cook doesn't get hurt. My dad's part of that was all those Super Bowls that the Steelers won in the 70s, the Bengals would have been winning had Greg Cook stayed healthy. Is that fair?
I think a lot of people view it that way. I mean, Paul Brown said, I got my autogram. And I don't think he would toss that around lightly. Why would you? And so, yeah, I think that's certainly the vibe. And the thing is he won. Without that, he was able to put together an offense that worked and won. And then obviously you get Ken Anderson a few years later, and the rest is history when he starts to hit the ground running.
All right, James, we appreciate your time. One final note here from Lisa, I think has a copy of your book.
She does, yes.
Dan Horde in there?
Yes, yeah, forward by Dan Horde. Dan is the man. I asked Dan to do the forward, and he didn't hesitate at all. And he's been such a big supporter of me, really, since my producer days when I was really, really young in this business. And so I'm really excited that Dan was able to write the forward. And I think that's one of the many reasons why Bengals fans will enjoy the book.
Nice. We're going to pop up this graphic one more time. You've got the actual book there, the hard copy.
Yeah.
And Friday, 7 p.m., Holy Grail. Yep. You will be there with the books, drinking Anderson
a lot
beer.
Of books.
Yes.
Drinking beer, drinking some cold ones, talking about Chris Collinsworth right here. I mean, these are the type of pictures, insight. It's an easy read, but I feel like we fit a lot of information in it. So spotlight on Ken Anderson, of course. Why wouldn't we?
The pictures are great. I'm a picture guy. Those are great. And as Chris asked earlier, if you can't make it to the Holy Grail on Friday, we just shared the link again in the chat, CincinnatiBengalsBook.com, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
All right, James. Well, we appreciate it. We're going to get back on the right track this Sunday at Paycor. If you're free and you want to stop by the tailgate, say hi. Hey, you maybe should bring some books by. There'll be a lot of fans there. You're more than welcome to bring some books by. And here's another question: cash only Friday, or Venmo, or credit card?
Yeah, we'll go Venmo and cash. That'd be the easiest way. I could bring a credit card swipe machine if we wanted to go that route. I think it complicates it though. So we could do Venmo, PayPal. If we have to do Cash App, we could do all of those. And then obviously Cash works as well. And they're $30, just to give everyone an idea of how much price is.
Well, we appreciate it as always, James. We appreciate you signing Tony's flag, being the most famous thing that's done it thus far. And we'll see you Friday at the Holy Grail.
Sounds good, fellas. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate you, James. Today.
All righty. We appreciate James coming on. And we also have Charlie's in the waiting room. We're not going to keep him waiting any longer. But I believe this is season 4, right, Tom?
For us, yes.
Season 4. Has there been any foreigners on the show yet in season 4?
Not on season 4. In previous seasons, yes, but not season 4.
And thus far, everybody has had their sleeves on in season 4, correct?
To the best of mine, Tony, how are you?
Oh, Tony's muted.
Definitely got sleeves on, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we bring Charlie on, we're going to bring our favorite Canadian. He's come out of darkness, and he's going to make his debut here. Jamie.
There he is.
What's going on, boys? Sorry I'm late.
Well, that's okay.
I'm sorry I'm late by like 3 months, but I do have breaking news. I want to be the first Bengals podcast. There's 1,000 Bengals podcasters now, but I want to be the first to break the news. The Bengals have released Collins. Have we heard about this yet?
Yes.
Am I late?
Look in the penalty box before, Jamie. We can take that 30 seconds in your season 4 debut. But
What's going on, boys? I missed you guys. Glad to be back.
Tom, do the honor of introducing our next guest, please.
He's got a habit of breaking sports news in Cincinnati, and his coverage of our Bengals is excellent. And with the amount of news and the game this week, we really wanted to have him on. So we welcome from Cincinnati.com, Cincinnati Enquire, Charlie Goldsmith. Charlie.
What's up,
There
guys?
Hey, it's tough act to follow Jamie. It's a season 4 debut, so we apologize for that. We had to squeeze him on, but welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's been I don't know how much you saw with James on earlier, but we're trying to forget what happened Sunday up at the city up north there, whatever they call it. As fans, we've moved on. It's a new week. We're making the season debut at Paycor, and quite frankly, we're excited. As Bengals fans tell us, we're no need to panic. We're just fine, and we'll take care of business Sunday at Paycor, right, Charlie?
Well, I guess that's it. I guess we've covered everything. I guess we've covered all the film, and Joe and Zach are ready to go for week 2 as well.
Well, yes, we're not panicked. We're looking forward to it. But one thing that, just as Jamie alluded to earlier, I think that the news broke end of the day when teams have to announce their transactions. Kind of the hot topic is La'el Collins. We know we started 16 games last year, got injured at the end when we brought him over. I think the term glass eater was used. I think this is the first time Pollock used it. We know the shift with Jonah this year to the right side of the line. If nothing more, we know we need to protect Joe. It's depth. How shocked were you by what happened at the end of the day today?
Yeah, these types of moves very rarely happen after the start of the season. The window we usually see is after training camp heading into week 1. So that makes you ask, well, what has changed since that usual window where these type of moves get made? Well, someone signed the biggest contract in franchise history. The Bengals usually like to have a certain amount of buffer above, where the cap is. And the Bengals now have, more flexibility in that range after cutting Collins. Again, when you look at things that have changed, kind of where the cap stands with Burrow is the only thing that has changed. He's the kind of guy who you would want to have around. One, because of, the impact and the influence he's had as a veteran in the room. 2, because, as the Bengals know very well, offensive line depth is crucial, and all it cost was cap space to keep LC. But ultimately, the decision the Bengals made was to go in a different direction.
Charlie, like James said, Sunday's over. Thank God. And after a little time, the emotion settles, film gets reviewed. I think, it seems like the consensus is the offensive line isn't where we wanted it to be. And maybe a couple times Jim Schwartz in the chess game, maybe we got, outmaneuvered a few times. But the offensive line may not have been as bad as we thought. Offensively, is it just on Joe Burrow last week?
So looking back through kind of what I was surprised by was how many moments where if you put yourself in Joe's head, you're thinking, this is exactly the look that Joe Burrow wants. How many times, if you're Joe, would you love to see cover 1, robber defender over the middle, man defense, which leaves you with one-on-one matchups on the outside? They actually, I thought, had a really interesting wrinkle. All the 10 personnel with Irwin as the 4th receiver, that let them have one-on-ones with receivers versus safeties. The play, probably the biggest play of the game, was Delpit's pass breakup against Higgins. Brian Callahan said that is the matchup you want on the field. That is a play that they'll take 10 times out of 10, and Joe underthrew the ball, whether that was the rain, whether that was the calf overall impacting just his entire motion and mechanics and all that kind of stuff. All of that will have to be worked out. What makes this game so strange is, the calf and the rain are 2 kind of independent variables that we're not used to evaluating Joe with. But I have a lot of confidence that those deep balls to Teal work. And if the deep balls to T work, it's a whole different game. And I think I would bet on those being in a much better direction going forward, assuming Joe recovers and continues to make his recovery and is back and showing kind of more confidence stepping up and around the pocket than he did in Cleveland.
Tony?
So Charlie, thanks for joining us. And we heard this last year. So again, we had no training camp, we had no preseason play out of our offensive starters and Burrow together. How much of an impact, or what is people saying? Again, here we are, having this same issue again. How much of that is having an impact on them being able to be successful?
So we're talking about a trend. It's funny though, like last year, I thought the slow start was completely independent from how they managed training camp in the preseason. What they're doing this year has kind of made me change my opinion on that, change my mind on that. I think it's much more connected, specifically the way the continuity didn't show up and the way there were all these operational errors, the illegal shifts, the delay of games, all of that connected. That's the kind of stuff you shouldn't be having for a team with a bunch of veterans who have played together a ton and with a coaching staff that knows exactly what it's doing because they've been around together for each other forever as well. So again, that's the kind of stuff that you need camp in the preseason for. It doesn't necessarily have to come in preseason games. Maybe, an extra joint practice. Like remember the Bengals had 2 joint practices against the Rams last year. Maybe an extra joint practice or something like that. You're able to manufacture some of those situations better than you would in a preseason game. But overall, they weren't up to speed in the way they needed to be for week 1.
Jamie, you are next.
Yeah, Charlie, what's it like being in the room after the game, having to ask what went wrong when the team lays an egg like that? Like, is it hard to ask those questions?
It's interesting because like Sunday and Monday are very different because on Sunday, nobody's watched the film yet and it's also fresh. And then Monday, what ends up happening is you end up coming back with more specific questions about the offense and the structure as a whole. So, post game, you're talking to T. I asked him specifically about what Delpit did on that play. It's a pretty, reaction to it. T can remember what he saw. T's not having to look at the whole scope of the offense and the theme of the game and the structure and the scope of the Browns' overall coverage. Then yesterday, I'm asking more about kind of the pattern of, I think I counted 5 deep balls they tried or thought about trying to T. Yesterday, I'm asking more about the balance between the run of the pass and opportunities kind of they had from a play calling perspective, a run versus pass, kind of looking at more bigger themes after they've had opportunities to watch the tape.
Looking ahead, I think that's enough talk about last week. Looking ahead to this week, I know we're ready to party and Lottie pregame, but I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Ravens game against Houston on Sunday. Obviously, terrible injury by J.K. Dobbins. Hate to see that banged up, maybe on that offensive line, left tackle, Ronnie Staley, and their second-year center, Lindenbaum. Mark Andrews didn't play. What are you hearing from your Baltimore media counterparts about their situation, especially with injuries?
Yeah, well, they had a slow start offensively, just like the Bengals did. They just happened to be playing the Texans. And kind of the most interesting dynamic to me that kind of is an unknown is Lamar Jackson in the pocket versus Lamar outside of the pocket. In week 1, he stayed in the pocket a lot. And the Texans kind of had some comments about how that limited the overall scope of what Baltimore was doing offensively. They said it made it easier on them. And kind of what's changed is Dobbins out, 2 offensive linemen out, Andrew's status unknown, kind of because of from a weekly game plan perspective with so many pieces that they're missing in such a big divisional game. Is Baltimore going to even reverse course almost and pivot just from week 1 to week 2 and try to make Lamar Jackson their best overall offensive weapon back to the scrambler that he was last year, because that might be their only chance for some really consistent offense with the pieces they're missing, especially because you're not expecting to sit back and drop back in the pocket and let those receivers get open because of where the line's at. The one thing I will say, though, about those receivers, Zay Flowers, kind of a more physical Hollywood Brown is the guy he reminded me of. He can do a lot with the ball in his hands. He can burn you deep, but he's so much more advanced and precise. He's kind of been the talk of camp there, and that carried in to a solid week 1 showing. So he might already be that wide receiver 1 who Chidobe Awuje's locked in on.
Charlie, going back with a little more of a positive spin. on Sunday. One of the things that everybody had worried about all offseason, and the national pundits who I'm going to take a little bit of a sadistic pleasure pounding on the Bengals, we heard about the safeties. But I thought Nick Scott and Dax Hill not only communicated well and had guys basically in the right spot, but they also made big plays. I mean, you don't want your safety leading the team in tackles, but they're certainly fast. They certainly know how to make plays.
Overall, the run defense, that was kind of a little bit of a theme that is harder to really acknowledge during training camp because they're not full. Excuse me.
Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless
That is a theme probably we're going to have to keep studying and harping on for two guys who really are known for more of who they are as pass game playmakers. But as pass game playmakers, they lived up to the hype. Lived up to the hype in training camp. They lived up to the hype in the preseason. These are two guys who are so they're not Vaughn and Jesse yet, but they're faster than Vaughn and Jesse. I think they'll have more turnovers than the Bengals had from the safety position last year. There's a lot that those guys bring to the table immediately. Dax Hill's versatility, like some of the stuff he was doing on third downs yesterday, on Sunday, not a lot of not a lot of safeties in the NFL do that kind of stuff on third downs that Dax was doing. So just more good signs the Bengals are seeing from two guys who I really like.
So sticking with the positives of the defense, I thought the defense kept us in the game on Sunday, pretty much through halftime. And unfortunately, just being on the field so long, it finally caught up with them. So what do you see against Baltimore? Do they keep the same scheme, or do you think, talking about Lamar, do they change it up a little bit? And what kind of pressure do you see the line giving Baltimore?
Well, it all starts with kind of what the Ravens are getting from Mark Andrews. He's the kind of guy who can create separation quickly and win quickly and give Lamar that quick option. What the Bengals have done that I think's worked best against Lamar over the years is they've shown pressure and they've done a really good job mixing up blitz looks versus, mixing up even drop 8. And they've really crowded and stacked the line of scrimmage, given the Ravens bodies to account for, have given Lamar a lot to have to be ready for that doesn't let Lamar just go or just take off or just, get ready to make one big throw, because he can be as explosive in individual moments as any quarterback, outside of Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. So I like what the Bengals have done previously against him. That calculus does change, though, when you have, his safety blanket and his most explosive guy in Andrews with everything he can do. But overall, the Bengals have historically, I think, played Lamar pretty well. You had the game where it all took off in 2021, that blowout where Lamar got nothing going. Week 5 last year, the defense played awesome. I think it was one of Lou's best game plans ever. And we're not talking about it just because Burrow and the running backs and the tight ends had a bad day, and the receivers as well. And there was the shovel pass, but the defense played great. We haven't seen Lamar since, but I think they've had a really good plan for him overall.
As Charlie, as the lone Canadian on the panel here, I have to ask a little bit of a depth chart question here. Chase Brown, what are we hearing about him and his role on this team going forward?
So they like Chase, but what would his snaps have been? I think he's a good short yardage back, and if you had an extra spot, I think you'd see him more in 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 spots. I think he's genuinely good at that. But he's not the special teams guy that Travion and Chris Evans are, just because of experience. That's fine, but that means a lot here. Chris Evans and Travion did well in pass protection. They're probably more I know they are more trusted in pass protection than Chase Brown is right now. They're also just, we know what Chris Evans is as a receiver, and Travion's made nice plays for them as a receiving option as well, especially because Myles Garrett was the week 1 matchup. They wanted to make sure they were as ready as possible for kind of all the different stuff Cleveland could throw at them at the line of scrimmage. Chase Brown will have a role as a ball carrier, but it wasn't the right matchup. It was also not the right time in Chase Brown's career. And again, they like Evans and Williams for those passing down roles.
Yeah, cool.
Looking at that offensive line, Charlie, going back since Joe Burrow's rookie year, we know the need to protect him. Obviously, we brought in Orlando Brown this year, swung Jonah over to the right side. Ted and Alex come in last year. Cordell had a great rookie year. Looking at it and some of the problems we even saw Sunday, when do you start looking at Frank Pollock and asking questions? There's been some stuff on social media, where his offensive lines have been ranked over the years. What's your take on that? And is it too soon to question Frank, and what's happening there on the front line construction, O-line construction?
It's a fair question. I'll look at the body of work. 21, I think Frank probably exceeded expectations with that offensive line. Just look at the talent they had, the fact that the Bengals had any consistency at all. Also, what they did with the run game that year with 4 guys who weren't in the NFL the following year. I'll probably give him there. The Bengals got off to too slow of a start last year. I think my biggest criticism for Frank overall was why that line wasn't prepared from a communication standpoint for week 1 and week 2. There were just some terrible, not blocking Micah Parsons on a 3rd and 1. Nobody blocked him. That stuff can happen. But from week 5 on, I genuinely think the Bengals had a good offensive line until they got hurt. Now they haven't been good enough developing backups, and put that on, into this conversation as well. That ended up catching up to them late. This year, probably, it was one game. I thought they were fine. I thought they played more than well enough to win the game. If Ward doesn't hold Chase and Chase breaks free and catches that and takes that for a touchdown, and then if Joe throws a better ball on the Delpit play and T catches that in stride and gets a touchdown, the Bengals probably win the game. It's a big season for the offensive line because of how much they've invested in it. It has to be good. I like the individual pieces. We'll see how they work this year. I would bet on it working over it not working, which would mean, I'll be betting on Frank overall, especially considering he's done some solid things in the past.
Charlie, we all love T. Higgins, and we all know he is an elite NFL receiver. He's a number 1 receiver on probably 28, 29 other clubs in this league. And it's incredible. He's a fun player to watch. He's a great player to watch. We just had his mom on the show a couple weeks ago. That being said, evidently his agent is Darth Vader. And depending on, what source you listen to, at the last minute over this past weekend, the Bengals made one heck of an offer to him that was not good. And then I was a little surprised with the response of T doesn't negotiate during the season. So, and we've heard reports he's not in the Bengals' plans. He will be a free agent next year. Do you think they're just going to let him walk? They wouldn't franchise him and tag and trade him, or franchise him and say, hey, these are the rules your union set up. We want you to stay here and help us win a Super Bowl. Or do you think they're just going to let him go?
I wish I had a better Star Wars related metaphor to continue tying this in with. I know how the coaches view T, and I know the coaches in the front office are on the same page. Just in general, they work really well together, and they very much understand and value the coaches' input and perspective on these situations. The coaches spent an entire offseason adding wrinkles to the offense in ways that specifically featured T because they saw it as a path to get more one-on-one matchups across the board. More T in the slot, more RPOs featured for T. You saw a slot fade for T in week 1. He wasn't doing that last year. The Bengals have so much confidence in T that they did all that, and they've done all that, and you'll continue to see that take off over the course of the season. They value T. Now, Higgins also knows how good he is, and the wide receiver market is the wild, wild west right now. Justin Jefferson, no deal. Mike Evans, a very different stage of his career. CD Lamb, very similar situation. There's just, I don't think, as much clarity like Burrow, Hurts, Jackson, Herbert. They all got 5-year deals that were pretty much in the same family of contracts. Well, there is no family right now in the wide receivers contracts. That probably leads to more just uncertainty overall in the negotiating. And we've seen it's led to more receivers betting on themselves. I'd chalk this up to more the receiver market than anything. I know how much the Bengals value T. My projection right now would be at the bare minimum, Higgins getting a franchise tag very quickly, just because you're not letting that guy walk. I think T's the kind of guy who, just like the Chiefs have built around Mahomes, Jones, Kelsey, they've kept their 3 superstar guys. I think the Bengals should keep their 3 superstar guys, even though 2 of them play the same position. That's how good T is. But now this is the defining question, as the Bengals build this thing. It is a debate, a receiver versus what that can mean for the rest of the roster. And part of the solution to that debate will be the offers that T and Higgins are both comfortable with.
One more question, if you don't mind, Charlie. We want to be conscious of your time. This comes from Lisa in the chat. Going back to the running back situation, Mixon, I would agree, had a solid game on Sunday. I thought in the limited touches, Chris Evans did good. Obviously, one of the big questions for him is can he pick up those blocks? So maybe elaborate on Joe what we can expect for him this year, and maybe Travion Williams or Chris Evans in the backfield.
So, Joe, that's the Joe Mixon game. You'll sign up for that 17 plus postseason out of 17 with the way he broke tackles, the way he ran physically. His stiff arm was as good as it's been. He had some really quick, stutter steps to kind of be patient while turning that into acceleration. It was really nice. It was also a reminder that the Bengals aren't built to be a pound the rock, run the ball 30 times in the rain type team. Every move they've made, they got offensive linemen to run a shotgun gap scheme, what we've seen them, to run the RPO style stuff that works well, because everything they do is focused on putting the ball in Burrow's hands, and that's okay. That's why they've made, the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl the last 2 years, because of how well they've featured Burrow. It's good to know that on days where Burrow will be better, they have the Mixon in the run game that can keep them efficient, that can probably create some more explosiveness. I think he's really underrated as a receiver. I think you saw all the things you need to see from Mixon to where on a normal day from Joe, you're taking that from Mixon 100 times out of 100.
Well, Charlie, we appreciate you joining us. I can't believe it's taken so long to get you on here. Your knowledge, first class here. Certainly ramped up going into the game on Sunday. For those maybe out of the area or don't know how to find what you write, go ahead and tell the Bengals fans where they can find you.
Just everything at the Cincinnati Enquire and Cincinnati.com.
All righty. Well, Charlie, we appreciate it. We'll all be down at Paycor on Sunday. Get that first win, get us back on track. And again, your time tonight, certainly appreciated, and look forward to keep following you on social media and reading those wonderful articles you're typing out.
Good to see you guys.
All right,
Charlie, thank you.
Appreciate it. Man, wealth of knowledge here. Just in depth on some things. I think obviously hot off the press was the La'el Collins situation. That T. Higgins situation, great question, Tom. That's, I don't know if that's really made mainstream media, kind of what's happening there behind the scenes on the contract. But, Charlie, wealth of knowledge for sure.
No, his coverage is excellent. Go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I can't see the chat. I'm on the phone. It's the first time I've been on the phone. Are people in the chat, like our normal people all here?
Yeah,
I saw Andrew's name up there. Lisa was there.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Jamie. We got Lou in the waiting room. We're going to bring him on momentarily. But let me scroll back here. This is from Trip Keeper. I don't know if you can see this. It says, question for Jamie. Was Reagan in office the last time you had a haircut? Just playing, bud. Great to see you. So, yes, Jamie, the chat is alive and well.
Great.
Have no fear. So, be careful what you ask for, Jamie. You've been gone for a while.
I can't see it. I can't see the chat on my phone. I don't know. I've never been on the phone before. I'm always on my computer. But anyway.
Let's get to our final guest. He's been waiting long enough.
Bring him on.
Announcement that we made this evening. I think it's finally out on social media. Tom, go ahead and introduce our final guest of the night.
Yeah, go ahead and pop him up. James, Craig, and Jimmy have worked very, very hard to expand the tailgate, where we've been a little bit cramped these last several years, and it'll be jumping over the walkway there by the river into Smale Park. And I believe we have Lou. There he is. Lou Sand now on. And Lou, welcome to Bengal Jim and Friends.
Hey, I'm really happy to be here and very excited about this upcoming year.
Well, we're sorry to keep you waiting there, but we're excited. As the press release said today, a new collaboration with Bengal Jim and Friends and Cincinnati Parks, what you guys do right there in Smale Park, adjacent to Lot E and in southeast corner of Paycor Stadium is gorgeous. If you haven't had the opportunity to walk through their pregame, or even on a Saturday, we have a lot of people that come into town before, the swings, just walking down on the water. I know, it's probably getting a little cold, but the water features that the little kids like down there, it's quite a cool place. And for those that don't know about it, Lou, let's hear all about Smale Park.
Well, I tell you, Smale Park, we see it as kind of the front yard for the city. And I can really think of no better place to do some tailgating activities, but, right there along the river at Smale Park. Obviously, there's a lot of wonderful features to include the river view. We've got a really nice playground for the kids. You mentioned the water features. We got a nice, great lawn space in the Castellini Esplanade, which we've been doing music at every Saturday night. We're also going to be doing some music on Sunday with a live band. So that'll be an exciting piece to our first collaboration. But definitely a great place to get revved up for the game.
Certainly. I think more on the east side, there's a flying pig thing that kids can play on. There's some music, noisemakers down there. So certainly a great place to visit. Like I said, whether it's on game day, whether you're walking over to Bengal gyms, or perhaps you're just down there with the family. Lou, for those that don't know, how long have you been involved with Cincinnati Parks?
Well, actually, it's going on 24 years. So I've been with Cincinnati Parks for quite a while. I had a lot of different assignments with Cincinnati Parks. Started off on the east side. I actually left for Afghanistan for a deployment for a year. Came back and did some. Was a district crew leader out of Mount Airy Forest, and then I came down to the river in a position in about the 2012 time frame. Got a promotion, went back over to the east side, which is actually where I had started, and now I'm back on the river running the riverfront parks. So a pretty long career.
Nice. And for those that asked, our Tailgate spot and lot E, where we've been the last 5 years, that isn't changing. But through the collaboration with Cincy Parks, we're going to have a lot more stuff adjacent to us, literally right next door. So as everybody knows, charity is a huge part of what we do. Cincinnati Parks is going to benefit from that. You're going to see David Fulcher down there on game day with his charity, Icky Woods with his charity. Some great local Cincinnati companies are going to be part of the tailgate, and that's simply because of the collaboration with Lou and his team at Cincinnati Parks, and we're excited about that partnership. So, Lou, we appreciate you joining us here tonight. Will we see you down there Sunday?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there with my lovely wife, and can't wait to help things get started. Again, I'm really looking forward to it. It was great working with Craig and Jim to put this thing together. And I really see a lot of room for growth and a wonderful partnership moving into the future. And again, we're very, very excited about it, and look forward to a long relationship.
Well, we appreciate it. We do
Sorry,
as well.
can I say something?
Yeah,
I just want to say something to Lou. I just want to say you guys do an amazing job with that park. So I come down from Ontario, Canada to the games. I bring people down with me. You're right. That is the front yard of Cincinnati. That's the first place that we go to when I bring new people down, and they're absolutely blown away with how it looks. You guys do a great job.
Well, I really appreciate that. And I really got to mention the team, that I have. Casey McCann is the district crew leader over there. We've got some amazing florists and other employees that just put a tremendous amount of effort into making that experience, truly a great experience. And I encourage everybody to take the time out, on Sunday or other days to come and walk the park, enjoy the pieces of art, obviously the beautiful flower and horticultural displays that are throughout the park. There's a lot of fun stuff to do down there for the whole family. And this type of collaboration with you guys is just really in line with the mission of Cincinnati Parks to provide, really memorable experiences for the citizens of Cincinnati.
Yeah, just like the parks is family friendly, we take great pride in the tailgate being family friendly. So as you said, bring the families down. We got some people in the chat thanking you for your service, Lou. So we appreciate that, and they thank you as well. So again, kind of last minute, we had to shuffle your time slot around. We appreciate you being so flexible, Lou. We look forward to seeing you down there at Sunday pregame.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks,
Good day,
guys.
Lou. Have a good evening.
Yep.
Thanks, Luke.
All righty. I think that is going to bring us to a new.
The 2-minute warning. Let's go!
Good there. I think, Tony, you got that. Bengal Warrior making his Bengal Gym 2-minute warning debut. So thank you, Tony, for putting that together. And we'll let you start off the ending of the show tonight, Tony.
Hey, it's week one. No reason to be scared, nervous, or worried. We've seen this before. Let's just go in with a positive attitude. One thing that I take a lot of pride in is making sure that we still support the team. They know they played bad. It was a full time up in the city up north. But, most of us who were there, we stayed there and applauded them all the way into the tunnel. And that's what we should be doing. We're a supportive fan base, and that shouldn't change. But I'm looking forward to Sunday, our first home tailgate, and getting everybody together, getting our charity season officially kicked off with the tailgates. Looking forward to seeing everyone. Who day?
Tom, does Jamie get to say anything, or do we have to put him in the penalty box since he's missed like the first 7 shows of season 4?
Let's go around. We'll let him finish tonight. You go ahead and go next.
Oh, you want me to go? Okay. Do you guys have the football ready for the handoff?
Maybe there's only one football, probably.
Dude, I got home late. I'm on my phone. I'm doing my best.
With his Rope Factory shirt, he's getting the shameless plug in if you need a wedding in Brantford, Ontario.
If anybody in Cincinnati is looking for a wedding in Ontario, Canada, come and see me. I'm working on a Tim Hortons sponsorship deal for the show, too, but they're not sold on the demographic quite yet, but I'm working on it.
Oh man. All right, I digress. So I'm going to talk about the tailgate. Certainly excited for what we're going to do, the collaboration with Cincinnati Parks. Lou touched on it. Jamie, you touched on it. See in the chat. Chris was even talking about the loves the piano keyboard there. Just pretty cool. We're excited, as Lou said, family atmosphere there at Smale Park, just like the tailgates. And that's something we're often asked, hey, can I bring my kids? Can I bring my younger ones? 100%. You can bring them to any of the tailgates, home or away. And I'm going to give one more plug for the away tailgates, Nashville, Arizona. Those tickets are on sale. I touched on it earlier. I didn't have the graphic. Our friends at Bold Stripes, for those going to the San Francisco game, there's going to be that private Bengals wine tasting up there in Sonoma. So there are some limited tickets available for that. If you plan on going out to San Francisco, making a couple days out of it, feel free to get one of those limited tickets. So nothing's changing for the tailgate in this year. Again, it's just expanding through a partnership. Lots of new and exciting things. Our buddy Kick with CMA has a new DJ vehicle. DJ Trub will be back, new sound system. So we'll be debuting that Sunday, which should be a lot of fun. And again, as I always say, this is by the fans, for the fans. We appreciate everyone tuning in. And Tom, go ahead.
Well, one change to the tailgate that, James, you did not get to mention, with Jimmy not being put on the active roster tonight, being inactive. I'm surprised you didn't announce it. There'll be no hip hop played this year. It'll be strictly country music. James will be picking the music, songs we can all sing to. Jimmy's taste in music is odd. It's passe, and obviously after the loss last week, we need to shake things up a bit, and so that would be the final big announcement there. But Sunday's big. Come out, bring your voice. It's going to be loud. We could play a darn good football game and still lose to the Ratbirds. They're a very dangerous team. They are well coached. They do have an elite quarterback. They will be dangerous, and don't be fooled. I would imagine a lot of those guys that are injured right now make miraculous recoveries. Guys always seem to. And with that, this offseason, he was in a darkness retreat for a while. Then he was in a dark holding cell at the Canadian-United States border that James and Craig inspected this past week. But it's good to have Jamie back, and I'll toss it over to Jamie finally.
Oh. Thank you. Hey, that's hard to
Right
do on a
pause.
phone. You have to look the opposite way. I had to practice that the whole time James was talking. Look, guys, I don't mind laying an egg. I just hate that it's against the Browns. I just absolutely hate that it's a divisional game. I think Sunday is going to be huge. We're all obviously we're cheering on this team. We want them to win, but I hate to say, like, a week 2 game is a must-win game. You do not want to go down 0-2 to start the season and lose both games to divisional opponents. So the ramifications of that later could be felt. We looked at that last year. We looked back and went, oh man, if we would have beat the Steelers, it would have been a whole different scenario last year. So I don't know, man. I hate losing to the Browns, but I'm excited for the home opener. I'm excited to see what the Bengals have done new this year. Obviously the game day experience has improved dramatically over the last few seasons. So I'm excited to come down. I'm excited to see you guys. It's been a while since I've seen you guys. I'm going to be down for the tailgate. I'll be down for the home opener. I'm going to stay for the whole week. My birthday's on Sunday. I'm staying over for the Monday night game and then going home after that. So be 10 days in Cincinnati, and I cannot wait.
10 glorious days. So, Jamie,
10
welcome.
long days.
Will you have the sleeves on at the tailgate on Sunday? The ladies are asking in the chat.
What's that? Sorry, will I have what?
Be sleeveless Sunday.
Nobody wants to see me sleepless, man.
The ladies do.
Nobody wants to see that. We'll check the forecast.
All right. Another question is, what time do we start? Chris, yes, 9 a.m. Sunday. We will be ready to rock and roll. So come on down. Obviously, Park doesn't limit that, but the other portion and Lottie, we're limited to 4 hours before kickoff. So yes, 9 a.m. We will start fresh. And the VIP, Tony reminded us of that. So many people are always asking, hey, how do we get involved in the tailgate, especially those that aren't in town? They're like, what can we do to help out? On social media, our buddy Craig put together a VIP option for fans. There's different levels. There's different appreciation items that go for that. So check out the social medias if you want to become a VIP member of the tailgate. We'd love to have you. It also includes tickets to away tailgates and a lot of cool stuff. So if you'd like to do that, if you're one of those people that's always asking, hey, how can I get involved? That's there. Also, again, this isn't just the 4 people on the screen and Jimmy that put this together. There's so much legwork that happens behind the screen from volunteers helping set up, volunteers that help tear down. So we appreciate all of that. Mr. Holmes asked, yes, it's Oktoberfest in Cincy this weekend. So a lot of fun stuff happening in Cincinnati. So come on down. As always, we appreciate you joining us. Again, if you haven't liked that new Facebook page, please do so. Facebook.com/podcast Talking Football. That way, if you're on there, you can stay tuned of all the latest and greatest with the podcast. So from all of us, including Mr. Foster, who's not on tonight, Houday, and we look forward to seeing you Sunday in the southeast corner of Paycor Stadium with our friends at Cincy Park. So Houday, everybody.
Houday.
Healthy.
Go Bengals.